1 year ago today, I bought my first crib/house hack rental property for $225,000. But with approaching record high interest rates, low housing inventory, and decreasing demand among buyers,
the only way to make this work is to increase supply. It's a really, really unique problem we haven't seen for a long time, if ever.
Am I still set to make any money on this house? Well, in this video, we're going to get into the numbers and break that down. This home features 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, originally built in 1949 during the great post-war housing boom. This area of Milwaukee used to be part of its own separate city known as Town of Lake that remained very rural, largely full of farmland up until the 1940s.
The forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations.
Veterans and newly arriving citizens from both Poland and Germany began flocking to the area, with the new homes being built retailing for just between $7,000 and $10,000 each. Around this time, the Town of Lake consolidated with the city of Milwaukee, and the area began growing even faster. Now you basically can't drive around this area without seeing a bunch of old houses, all built around the same time frame. And on top of that, a lot of the businesses around here have been running for over 5 decades. So driving around some parts of here feels like a throwback in time. The oldest recorded sale on my house I could find was for $32,400 in August of 1985, meaning it has appreciated 594.4% in the last 38 years, or at an average rate of 7.28% annually. But according to the original 1985 document, at the time the house was just 870 square feet, meaning that when we go inside, this whole upstairs area was an addition. And since this whole area is where my friend's room is, it generates me $750 per month. Now moving down the stairs, we got the homie Sherlock down here, my room where I sleep, a living room / Sherlock's room, a kitchen area, a downstairs area with a traffic cone, a spot for vending machine snacks, a crypto miner, and then over here we got a laundry room. Then finally behind the house we have a detached garage, which, well, when you open it up, you'll see it needs a lot of work. Now getting into the numbers a bit more, when I originally bought this house, I put down 20%, or roughly $50,000 after closing costs, financing the remaining $180,000 over 30 years at 7.25% interest. That breaks down to a monthly principal and interest payment of $1,228. This loan began roughly a year ago in August of 2023, so since then, if I paid the base mortgage payment and didn't throw any additional money towards the loan, $1,742 would have gone towards principal, with a whopping $12,993 going towards interest. The total cost of this loan, if I paid the minimum payments for 30 years, would be $442,050. But if it somehow continues to appreciate at 7.28% annually, it would be worth an estimated $1,755,000, which is kind of crazy to think about. But of course, that doesn't factor in expenses like property taxes, which mine just went up to $5,214 annually, or things like insurance, which cost me another $1,850 per year. Then we have things like maintenance, which will add in another $2,000 annually for, bringing in our total 30-year cost of this home to $713,986. Despite the massive appreciation this house and the real estate market in general has seen over the last 30 years, past performance is not always an indicator of future results. So it's very much possible that over the next 30 years, my mortgage lender, insurance company, and even city might profit more money on this house than me. Some investors even argue that your personal house is not an investment.
Your house is not an asset. Assets cash flow money into your pocket.
So in this current world of rising homeownership costs and high interest rates, is it still best to invest your money in real estate? Well, before we speak with some top real estate investors and break down my plan to go from this one property to many, Playbook was awesome enough to sponsor this video to help you grow your wealth the right way. Playbook is a step-by-step app for growing your wealth designed to help you reach financial freedom as fast as possible. They use proven strategies, the same ones recommended by financial advisors or billionaires, to help build you an airtight financial plan, minimize your taxes, and boost your net worth. They actually have a net worth tracker built in the app, so you can see how it fluctuates day to day, and you'll notice that Playbook projects that with their help, I will be able to increase my nest egg by age 75 by $5.4 million using their plan, based on having a proper plan for consistent savings and putting that money in the right tax-friendly retirement accounts to keep the IRS out of your nest egg. In the Your Plan section of the website, they say I should currently work towards setting up a traditional IRA and also set up a backdoor Roth IRA. Playbook is also launching a new feature this month that helps you step by step with paying off things like your car loan, credit card, versus investing more money into retirement. And you get all that for just $9 per month, or try it for free using the link down below or at playbook.com/financialwolf. You won't regret it. In my first 1 year of homeownership, I have spent a grand total of $22,800.36, counting $1,000 of repairs to buy a new washer and dryer, and not counting my down payment. That breaks down to roughly $1,900 monthly, but don't forget, I rent the upstairs of my house to a friend for $750, bringing my out-of-pocket cost monthly to $1,250, which is still cheaper than my old apartment monthly, but it definitely isn't the deal of a lifetime. So to learn more about whether investing in real estate is still worth it or not, let's hop on a call with some real estate experts. Interest rates are at the highest level since 2006, and we're also seeing, like in a lot of areas, supply shortages still. What are your thoughts on like how the market's going to go going forward?
I believe that slowly you will see some inventory coming back, especially in certain areas. It's already showing this. I believe Florida is one of those markets that's showing inventory increases already. The average consumer does not actually care about an interest rate percent. That doesn't mean very much to them. That's why you have consumers taking credit cards at 22% interest. All people care about is that monthly payment. As soon as that monthly payment starts to not even stretch people, but banks start to deny people because of their income limits. People will pay whatever the bank will approve them for. That's what we saw in 2008. But as soon as the banks start to tighten up because now the property is too expensive, along with the interest rate, to keep that payment low enough to let the bank approve that loan, that's where you're going to see inventory start hitting the market, or at the very least, prices start to drop.
We've already seen a decrease in home purchases across the United States, but inventory hasn't increased as much due to a lack of new sellers. Roughly 60% of homeowners are locked in at interest rates below 4%, so why would they ever sell?
I think that what's going to happen is prices eventually are going to have to come down. Now, I say that, but as soon as they drop interest rates, there you go again. And now you're going to get that gap back between the monthly payment and the price of the home. And you may actually see housing prices rise.
So you heard it. It all depends on interest rates. There's been a lot of news about rate cuts potentially coming up at the end of this year or in 2025, but here's why I think that we might not see 4% rates for a long time. Contrary to what I said earlier in this video, interest rates are not at all-time highs. It's just they're a lot higher than they've been in a long time. Between the years of 1945 and the early 1980s, interest rates went from a low of 1.7% to over 15%. Following World War II, the United States was deeply in debt, with a debt-to-GDP ratio of 121.2%, an all-time high similar to what we see right now. When the national debt of the United States is high, the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates and also does something known as quantitative easing. Another creator, Heresy Financial, made a really great video explaining this, but from my understanding, this is when the Federal Reserve buys government debt with new money they create, increasing the money supply. With more dollars in circulation, inflation takes place, forcing the Federal Reserve to start increasing interest rates again. That's why back in the 1970s and 80s, interest rates were so high. Loose expansionary policy from the decades prior, combined with high government spending, caused inflation. This is very similar to what we've seen in the last 40 years, and especially after 2008. The government deficit has increased massively to a staggering 132.96% of GDP. The interest on the debt alone is 14% of the federal budget. So in the short term, the Federal Reserve may lower interest rates, but long term, as inflation likely goes back up and interest rates also rise, the federal government will be faced with a very tough decision. Number one, decrease government spending, which they almost never do, impose tax hikes, which they did in the 1970s, or kind of do what they did last time, where they let inflation destroy the real value of the debt they had, and then GDP growth due to technological advancement and higher worker productivity helps you end up sort of okay. Which means from my perspective, long-term real estate prices are likely to go up, mostly due to inflation. How fast that happens depends on interest rates. So if you can afford to buy a personal house or investment property right now and the deal makes sense, I say do it.
Over the course of many years, real estate always goes up.
Sorry, there's not going to be a crash. And like I'd bet good money on it right now that like there's not going to be a crash where all real estate just plummets. If you can't find anything that cash flows, I've seen a lot of people also buying properties subject to. As the market changes, your strategy has to change too.
I mean, if the numbers work, buy the deal. That's what a mentor of mine told me years ago. Shout out Rick Jarman, rest in peace. If it cash flows, why not buy it?
So though the real estate market may be tougher to get into right now than it's been in the past, there's always been harder and easier times to get started buying houses.
Wow, a lot of people seem very motivated.
Oh, it's just the gully.
Money can be made in any market. It's just about finding the right deal. I'm personally saving to buy my second property right now. It might be a Section 8 deal since low-income real estate is easier to get your foot in the door with. It usually has a higher cash-on-cash return from what I found, and worst case, I can make some good videos out of it. I honestly couldn't give you an exact timeline of when I'm going to be buying my next property, ideally before this time next year. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna keep on learning. And when the time comes, I'm gonna have an absolutely banger video for you guys. So if you made it to the end, be sure to drop a like, check out the sponsor Playbook down below, and peace out.